All right, then. We're diving into the story of Peter Swan.
Yeah, legend and tragedy, all wrapped up in one.
It's all over these articles you sent, can't escape it. A career packed with what-ifs. That's what we're digging into today, right?
And the context, it can't be ignored. We're talking about English football in the early 60s.
Not just any old time for the sport.
This is post-war, right? Football wasn't just a game, that it was breathing life back into the nation. Hope,
And right there in the thick of it, you've got Peter Swan, born 36, starts playing for Sheffield Wednesday at just 17.
17. Can you imagine that now?
Talk about starting young.
Not just starting, but he becomes vital to the team almost instantly. The descriptions I found of his playing style, remarkable. Picture this.
Go on.
A chess grandmaster, but on the pitch. That was Peter Swan. Seeing plays before they happened.
Yeah.
Stopping attacks before they even began.
I'm trying to get a visual here.
One journalist even said watching Swan tackled, quote, like a panther.
Okay, now that's an image. But this wasn't just brute force, right? Swan wasn't just some enforcer out there.
Absolutely not. His intelligence on the field, tactical awareness, legendary.
Like what? Give me an example.
One match, described in your research actually, Swan single-handedly sets up this offside trap. Catches the other team completely off guard, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row.
This guy's playing 4-dimensional chess.
Well, everyone else is stuck on checkers. Exactly.
No wonder they considered him one of England's best.
And he wasn't confined to club level either. 19 caps for the national team between 1960 and 62.
Yeah.
That's not just showing up, that's making a statement.
Huge achievement.
More than huge. Back then, earning a spot on the national team, especially as a defender, royalty. One of the finest England had to offer, they called him.
So we've got a star on the rise, brains and brawn, playing at the highest level. This is shaping up to be one for the history books.
It is, but 1964, that's when everything changes. Not just for Peter Swan, for English football as a whole.
1964. That's the year, you said. What could derail a career going that strong?
It's the scandal. Still talked about, even now. Peter Swan and 2 of his teammates from Sheffield Wednesday, Tony Kaye and David Lane, what they were accused of, still sends chills down the spines of club owners today. Match fixing.
Match fixing. Wait, are you saying they threw a game deliberately?
The accusation was that they bet on their own team to lose against Ipswich Town. And not just any game either.
Go on.
This was the final game of the season. 1961-62 season.
And they did lose that game, for the record.
Sheffield Wednesday, they lost 2-0.
Okay.
Now, to be fair to Swan, he always insisted he was innocent, said the match was lost fair and square, their bets had nothing to do with it.
But the damage was done, I'm guessing.
Oh, absolutely.
So what happens next? You get accused of something like that at the heart of English football. What's fallout?
The FA, the Football Association, they didn't mess around. Lifetime bans for all 3 players.
Lifetime. That seems extreme.
It was supposed to. This was a different time, remember. Football was rebuilding its image after the war. And match fixing. That cut right to the core of what the sport was supposed to be about, fair play.
They wanted to send a message?
No doubt about it. This behavior would not be tolerated.
And Swan himself, on top of the ban, any other?
He served 4 months in prison.
Wow.
This wasn't just breaking the rules of the game. This was a serious offense. Criminal offense in their eyes.
From national hero to prison. That's rough. And you mentioned this all happened right before the '66 World Cup.
Which England won, of course, on home soil.
Can't imagine what Swan must felt like watching that.
To be that close to something so huge, a chance to be part of history, and to have to watch it all from the sidelines.
Adds a whole other dimension to the what-if of his career, doesn't it? What if this scandal never happened?
He was supposed to be a key part of that '66 team. By all accounts, destined for greatness. Instead, he's left carrying the weight of what might have been. It really makes you question, fate, how fragile a legacy can be.
So we left Swan watching that '66 World Cup, career in pieces, seemingly. But this is a deep dive, so something tells me that's not how the story ends.
So it's far from over. 1972. 8 years after the scandal, Swan's ban is lifted.
8 years. That's a lifetime in football terms, isn't it? And not just prison, but banished from the game you love.
Exactly. To even think about coming back after all that.
Did he?
He did. And here's where it gets really interesting, right? 36 years old. Most players, they're thinking about retiring at that age, winding down. But Swan.
Yeah.
He returns to Sheffield Wednesday.
No way. Seriously.
At 36.
Yeah.
To have that kind of, resilience, love for the game, incredible. But realistically, after 8 years out, could he even play at that level anymore?
Good question.
The sources all seem to agree he was never quite the same. The speed, that agility he was known for, it wasn't all there.
Makes sense.
But what comes through even stronger in the writing is the respect for him. The sheer force of will it took to even step back onto that pitch. I read one journalist who said, Swan's return, it wasn't about trying to relive past glory. It was about, quote, facing down a ghost.
There's a real sense of trying to make things right in that, I guess. Did he ever play anywhere else after Sheffield Wednesday, I mean?
Briefly, for Bury.
Mm-hmm.
But he retired for good in '73.
Kind of poetic when you think about it. Starts and ends his career with Sheffield Wednesday.
A true one-club man, you could say. Despite everything.
Says a lot about him, doesn't it? When did Swan pass away?
2021.
So looking back on a life, a career like that, full of such incredible highs and lows, how do you even begin to sum up Peter Swan's legacy?
It's complicated, isn't it? I mean, this is a player who, by all accounts, was destined for greatness.
Right.
But that scandal, that shadow, it never really went away. And you can't help but wonder, does the brilliance of what he could have achieved, does that make the tragedy even sharper?
Makes you think about choices, doesn't it? How one decision, one moment of weakness maybe can echo through your whole life.
And the idea of forgiveness. Of ourselves, of others. Peter Swan's story, it reminds us that even the brightest stars, they can stumble.
It's a story of talent, of tragedy, ambition, regret.
Story that stays with you.
Long after the final whistle. This deep dive into Peter Swan, it's a good reminder that sometimes the best stories in sports, they aren't about the wins and losses on the scoreboard. It's about the people behind the legends and the choices they make. Join us next time when we'll take another deep dive into a topic we think you'll find fascinating.